A tree from the world of the dead, the most toxic plant on the planet. A decorative plant with the most powerful poison. The most unfriendly trees on our planet, and not only. In this episode, I'll show you the most dangerous and dreadful trees in the world you should keep away from. Cerbera. It seems to me that it's not worth waiting for anything good from the tree that was named after the dreadful dog Cerberus from mythology. If you forgot or didn't know, it was a three-headed dog that guarded the exit from the kingdom of the dead and didn't allow the latter to come back to the world of the living. It merits saying that the one who named this tree is a real genius. After all, it closely related to the kingdom of the dead. Cerbera, namely Cerbera odolum, is a creepy tree, killing without leaving a trace. The tree is dangerous because of several moments. However, they're all about Cerbera being extremely poisonous. All parts of this tree contain a powerful venom, cerberin. It blocks electric impulses in the body, including the heart rhythm. In simple words, it leads to heart arrest. Cerbera is so toxic that you cannot even make fire from its branches. The smoke will be very poisonous, not only pungent. The fruits of this tree are not less dangerous. At different stages, they're now similar to coconuts, then nuts, then apples or mango, except that it's not allowed to eat them. Eating its fruit can have a lethal outcome as soon as in just 3 hours. In addition, Cerbera really doesn't leave any traces. Poison acts without any symptoms and dissolves quickly. This is why it's almost impossible to reveal intoxication. A man just dies because of heart arrest. And if you don't know that one ate Cerbera fruit, you'll never learn the reason. The grinded-up nucleuses of Cerbera used to be added to food to poison undesirable people. Cerbera is often called the tree of self-destroyers. Many people would often take their own lives with its help. What's more, Cerbera is used to deal with hexes and witches. As far as I'm concerned, all these factors are enough to call Cerbera the most dangerous tree on the planet. However, the majority of experts say that it's the manchineel. This plant from Central America is very similar to Cerbera. First of all, with its venom, manchineel is also an extremely toxic tree that cannot be concluded from its appearance. As well as in the case with Cerbera, the venom in this tree is spread all over its parts: leaves, bark, and fruit. As far as fruit are concerned, they're very treacherous. They're visually alike usual apples. History knows a case where 2 girls saw these fruits and tasted them. Though they were delicious, a couple of minutes later the girls felt a burning sensation in their mouth and a shortage of breath and ended up with a sore throat. It was only 8 hours later when they got better. Now imagine that you eat at least half of this apple. The lethal outcome will be guaranteed. However, that's not all. The tree also has a very toxic and acid sap. If you start to chop or saw manchineel, the sap will start splashing around and leave burns on the skin. Very dangerous to burn this tree. The smoke will be pungent and dangerous for your health. They say that even standing under manchineel during the rain is dangerous. The drops running down the leaves also leave burning sensations. Local Aborigines have known about these terrors for time immemorial. They accurately incised the manchineel bark, soaked the arrowheads with the tree sap, and got a powerful weapon. If such an arrow hit the enemy, he died soon after that, even if the wound was not deadly. As it's not possible to chop and burn these most dangerous trees, people decided to leave them alone. To secure themselves and others, they mark manchineel trees by warning tables. At least you can admire manchineel at a close distance. Nothing will happen if you approach this tree or just look at it. However, that doesn't work with all trees. You'd better keep away from some of them. For example, sandbox trees or hura. It's interesting that this tree relates to the spurge family as well as the manchineel. It's also very venomous, but toxins are hidden in these spines. Thanks to Mother Nature, you can at least visually understand that the tree is unfriendly. But why should you keep away from it? So that you don't stumble upon these spines. In particular, yes. However, it's not only spines but tree fruit that are also dangerous. It's not in vain that the tree is called a dynamite. When the tree's in bloom and bears fruit, it becomes extremely dangerous. Its fruit can burst as if it were a frag grenade. Interestingly, the explosion has the same effect. The fruit breaks into segments that can fly as far away as 320 feet at a speed of 155 miles per hour. Yes, these are no fragments of a grenade, of course. However, when a piece of fruit hits your eyes, you will be blinded. As a whole, there are other ways fruit pieces can hurt you. I I'm sure you all know what beads are. Some of them are used to pray, whereas others just like an accessory. But did you know that beads used to be made from one of the rarest plants on the planet? At least this is what they did in India. This is about a legume called cautionary bean. It's also known as the rosary pea. This plant grows in India. However, it's cultivated in many other parts of the world. Beads used to be produced from the seeds of this plant. It's exactly its seeds that are the most dangerous. They're extremely poisonous. When they get to the stomach, they cause the most powerful dehydration and inflammation in the stomach and small intestine. Mildly speaking, it's not so pleasant, and this is not all. It's also dangerous to infuse them in hot water. Toxic steams are extricated in this process that are able to result in blindness. In the past, people that produced beads could prick themselves with its seeds and get intoxicated. Just a single seed of this tree was enough to be deadly poisoned, which makes the plant incredibly dreadful and dangerous. At the same time, many countries of the world, cautionary bean serves as a raw material for medicine production. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't even approach cautionary bean with its blood-red seeds. As for this tree, I would keep away from it even more. It looks like a monster that came alive. They say this is one of the rarest mutant varieties of the bloodwood tree. Classically, it looks quite unusual. However, it has a surprise: blood inside. Look for yourself if you don't believe it. It's not Photoshop. The tree literally bleeds. Does it prove that trees feel pain and suffer? In fact, this is not the case. Plants have no pain receptors and nervous systems. It's no blood at all, it's just a sap. Because of its unique composition, it looks like real blood, which makes it visually dreadful. The bloodwood tree is not dangerous for people, whereas animals try to keep away from it. The thing is that it leaves slow digestion in animals, and a scent means danger. For this reason, animals do not risk eating its leaves and young trees of this species. What do you think? Can pines be dangerous? I'm sure that many of you take for rubbish. They grow in many places and nothing bad happens. What are they dangerous for? However, there are different pines. If we deal with bunya bunya or Araucaria bidwilli, not everything is so simple. This is a pine tree, but an unusual one. It's called bunya pine, and it has incredible cones. They're huge. Mature cones can reach up to a foot in diameter and weigh up to 6 pounds. Some state that they came across cones weighing some 13 pounds. It's obvious that nothing will happen if a cone of an ordinary pine tree falls on someone. However, if this giant one does, you'll get it. Considering that the tree can grow up to 164 feet tall, the fall of this thing from above will have a deadly outcome, or at least severe injury. That's why bunya bunya is not a tree under which you can sit and relax or just have a walk. Other than that, the pine is not dangerous. Do you still remember to which family Manchineal, the most dangerous tree in the whole world, belongs to? If you've forgotten, I can remind you, the spurge family, as well as the blind your eye mangrove. This is another tree in the selection. These trees grow in Southeast Asia, and as a whole, you cannot say that they're dreadful. Their wood is used in construction and even in medicine. Even if you just approach this tree, nothing will happen. This is no pine with mutant cones. At the same time, you'd better be vigilant. Milky sap of this tree is extremely poisonous. One wrong movement, one broken twig, and you risk coming into contact with a very toxic sap. It's so poisonous that even an ordinary contact with the skin can lead to burning sensations, blisters, and sores. The most important thing is not to touch your eyes with your injured hands. Otherwise, you'll be blinded. As a whole, the contact with the mucus will considerably strengthen the venom effect. As it often happens with other similar trees, you don't have to burn them. The smoke will also be toxic. You better not chop it either. The sap will splash around, leaving burns and blisters. At the same time, as I've already told you, you should not consider the tree as monstrous. In the therapeutic range, the sap of this tree cures inflammation, infections, and is even used to cure cancer. I keep on talking about poisonous and venomous trees. Yes, they're dangerous. However, even innocuous trees can pose a danger. It doesn't even have to develop overgrown cones on its twigs. One of them is Huya chilensis, for example. It's known as the shoggle. This is endemic to Chile that resembles something like a cactus. Firstly, as well as cactus, shoggle is able to survive at very high temperatures. Even the scorching heat is not an excuse for it to fade and die. Huya is more likely to catch fire. Scientists saw saw this rare phenomenon several times, but they didn't manage to study it. Secondly, puya is an unfriendly plant covered with dreadful and hard spines sticking out in all directions. Locals believe that this plant lures sheep, immobilizes them with its spines, and then gets nutritional substances from their bodies and even eats them. Of course, it's a myth that's true in part. Sheep are often entrapped in puya and die in its thickets as if it were barbed wire. Puya is also dangerous for children and for each person as a whole that gets tangled. The main thing is to stay off the plant. By the way, there's another dangerous plant in Chile, the monkey puzzle tree, or Araucaria araucana. At a distance, it looks like an ordinary fir tree or a pine. But if you look closer at it, it becomes clear that it contains spines. That looks dreadful, but puya is more dangerous in this regard. On the other hand, the monkey puzzle tree is interesting because it's existed on the planet for 200 million years, so it even saw dinosaurs. Its needle twigs protected Araucaria against herbivorous dinosaurs. In South America, in principle, you can find many unfriendly plants that can pose a threat, at least to health. Another one is the floss silk tree. This plant is tall enough and grows in the forests of Brazil, Bolivia, Argentina, Paraguay, and Peru. The tree has a green trunk because it provides photosynthesis, so it's not covered with bark. Instead, the tree protects itself against the herbivorous with its epic spines. Branches of this tree can also be covered with spines. I think that everybody understands what this plant is dangerous for. Anyway, let's come back to something really dangerous. To begin with, I have the following question. Are there any fans of the series Breaking Bad among you? Leave a like if you adore this show. I think you remember that in some series, Walter White produced ricin, the venom that helped him solve different problems. So ricin is produced from castor beans that, in their turn, grow on them. Everybody who watched the series remembered that ricin is some wonderful venom, leaving no traces and neutralizes a man. As a whole, it's the case. Ricin is extremely venomous. It causes many unpleasant symptoms, damages body liquid balance, and has a lethal outcome in several days. If a ricin victim survives, he'll never be able to make a full recovery. Ricin irreversibly destroys human tissue proteins. Ricin is not only dangerous if you ingest it, but also if you breathe it in. In this case, it lesions lungs that you won't be able to regenerate as well. Apart from that, it's not recommended to even touch castor beans with bare hands. It can be fraught with itching. As far as I'm concerned, bearing in mind all these factors, you can call this plant one of the most dangerous plants on the planet. It's surprising that many people grow it as a decorative plant on their plots of land. Strychnine tree. This is exactly how another plant with an unpleasant surprise is called. In itself, it's quite usual and even innocuous. It's also not so notable. The most interesting things are hidden in its fruit that are called vomitous nuts. But in fact, if you try this fruit, you'll have more dreadful consequences than just vomiting. In its fruits, to be exact, in its seeds, poisonous substances are contained: strychnine and brucine, cramps, numb limbs, overall depression, and impaired judgment. This is what you should expect if you swallow the poison. All this can lead to disorders in the nervous system and even suffocation. But why do they dub their fruit as vomitous nuts? They say that vomiting is the only thing the poisoned person can do to recover. At least in this case, there will be no increase in the effect of poison. By the way, the strychnine tree grows in South Asia and in the north of Australia. There's also another dreadful plant in Australia you'd better keep away from. I have 4 children. I gave birth by cesarean section 3 times and once naturally. However, there was nothing nearly as painful as this. This is what a woman told us about this plant who was unhappy to encounter it, in the direct sense of the word. We're talking about a gimpy. Outwardly, this is something like nettle with very wide leaves. As a whole, that's the case, even from the botanical point of view. It's nettle, but some dreadful one. It's dozens of times more painful than the ordinary one. It has sharp hairs on its leaves that contain neurotoxins and can easily puncture your skin. As people say who have happened to touch gimpy, your body reaches its pain threshold. You stop controlling it and feel a completely different kind of pain. It can last several days in a row, and most people even have to be hospitalized. What do you want? Gimpy is the most toxic plant in Australia. This could not have been otherwise. That's about it. Write in the comments what plant surprised you most of all. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel.